Why the faceless men trained Arya Stark, the hidden truth you never knew. Imagine this. A young girl from the cold north, stripped of her family, her name, her innocence, standing before the most secretive and feared assassins in all of Westeros and Essos. The faceless men. And somehow, they accept her. They train her. They give her power, knowledge, and a skill set that only gods could rival. But here's the burning question that still lingers in every Game of Thrones fan's mind. Why did the faceless men choose to train Arya Stark? Because if there's one thing we know about them, it's that they don't do anything without purpose. So what did they see in Arya? What made her worthy of becoming one of them? Was it destiny, divine intervention from the many-faced god? Or something much darker? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see that Arya's journey with the faceless men wasn't random at all. It was a story written long before she even left Winterfell. When Arya first stumbled into Braavos, she was lost, both literally and spiritually. She'd seen her father beheaded. She'd watched friends die, her family torn apart. And yet, inside her, there was something unbroken. Something ancient. A hunger for justice. A calling for vengeance. Now, when most people think of the faceless men, they imagine cold-hearted assassins who kill for gold and call it religion. But that's not the full story. Their entire existence revolves around balance, serving the many-faced god by giving the gift of death to those who deserve it. So ask yourself this. What happens when a girl like Arya, a girl who has a list of names, a thirst for retribution, and an unshakable sense of right and wrong, walks into their temple? The faceless men didn't just see a lost girl. They saw a mirror, a reflection of everything they believed in. But let's rewind for a second. The faceless men originated in the ancient city of Valyria. Yes, the same Valyria that birthed the Targaryens and their dragons. They began as slaves, men and women tortured and worked to death in the fiery mines beneath the Valyrian freehold. And it was there, in that darkness, that the first faceless man heard the many-faced god's voice. That god didn't speak in words. It spoke through death itself, through mercy, through release. The first faceless man gave the gift to his fellow slaves, freeing them from pain. But over time, the order grew, and the faceless men began to see themselves as divine instruments. Not murderers, not killers for coin, but servants of balance. And so, when Arya Stark came to them, with her list and her fury and her trauma, she was something extraordinary. Because she didn't come for gold. She came for purpose. And purpose is something the faceless men understand better than anyone. Still, there's more to it. Jaqen H'ghar, the mysterious assassin who first met Arya back in Harrenhal, could have chosen anyone. But he chose her. He offered her a coin, marked with the face of the many-faced god, and said, "If the day comes when you must find me again, give this coin to any man from Braavos, and say these words, Valar Morghulis." Now think about that. Why Arya? At that time, she was just a child. No name, no army, no power. And yet Jaqen, a servant of the most mysterious organization in all of Essos, singled her out. Some say it was fate. Others believe it was the many-faced god himself working through Jaqen. But here's a different theory, one that explains everything. The faceless men were testing Arya from the very beginning. Because to them, the true assassin isn't someone who kills easily. It's someone who understands death. Someone who respects it. And Arya had already seen more death than most adults ever would. She had already looked into the eyes of her dying father. She had seen war. She had survived starvation, cruelty, and betrayal. And through all of it, she never broke. She was forged by death itself. So when she arrived at the House of Black and White, they didn't reject her because she failed their tests. They tested her because they saw potential. Remember the tasks she was given. Cleaning corpses, begging on the streets, being beaten by the waif, and forced to abandon her identity. All of it wasn't just punishment, it was purification. They needed to strip Arya Stark down to nothing so she could be rebuilt into no one. But that's the thing. Arya never truly became no one. And maybe, that's exactly what the faceless men wanted. See, the biggest misconception about the faceless men is that their goal is to erase identity. That's not quite true. They use identity as a tool. They wear faces, they become others, they shift and change, but at their core, they remain servants of death. Arya couldn't let go of her name. She couldn't let go of her list. She couldn't let go of herself. And yet, they didn't kill her for it. They let her go. That alone tells us something deeper. Because if you truly disobey the faceless men, if you truly reject their god, you die. But Arya didn't die. She was allowed to walk away. So maybe, just maybe, training Arya was never about making her one of them. Maybe it was about preparing her for something far greater. Let's talk about prophecy for a moment. In the world of Game of Thrones, destiny weaves through bloodlines, through gods, through time itself. There are ancient prophecies, Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, and while Arya was never mentioned by name in those tales, her path mirrors something divine. She's not a queen, she's not a ruler, she's not even supposed to be in the game at all. And yet she changes the fate of the world. When Arya kills the Night King, she doesn't just avenge her family. She fulfills a role that no one else could. Ask yourself this. How could a girl from Winterfell sneak past legions of the undead, defy prophecy, and strike down the embodiment of death itself, unless she had been trained by the very people who worship death? It all connects. The faceless men trained Arya not to make her one of them, but to make her their weapon. A weapon that the many-faced god could use when the time came to restore balance. And maybe, Arya was always meant to be that instrument. Now, let's look at Jaqen H'ghar again. His role in Arya's story is far more complex than it seems. He appears when she's most vulnerable, first as a prisoner, then as a guide. Every lesson he gives her seems cruel, but every act of cruelty builds her strength. Girl has no name, he says. But the truth is, Arya's strength lies in having a name, in remembering who she is. And when she finally tells him that she's Arya Stark of Winterfell and she's going home, he smiles. He doesn't stop her, he doesn't punish her, he approves. Because the training was complete. She had learned everything they wanted her to learn, not to become a servant of the many-faced god, but to become her own master. And that's the paradox at the heart of her journey. The faceless men preach surrender, giving up your will, your face, your soul. But Arya's entire story is about reclaiming them. So why train her? Because even the god of death needs balance. And balance requires both obedience and defiance. Now, let's consider the possibility that Arya wasn't just trained for her own story, but for the world's. There's a long-standing connection between the Starks and the gods of death. The crypts of Winterfell are ancient, older than the castle itself. The first men who built them worshipped the old gods, and their gods demanded sacrifice. The weirwood trees, with their faces carved in blood-red sap, aren't so different from the faceless men's Hall of Faces. Both are altars to divine power. Both are symbols of transformation. So what if Arya's path to the House of Black and White wasn't random at all? What if it was the many-faced god calling one of his own? And maybe that god has many names. The Stranger, the Old Gods, the Lord of Light, but all are faces of the same truth. Death is not the end. Arya embodies that truth. She died as a child of Winterfell. She was reborn as an agent of the many-faced god. And when she left Braavos, she became something else entirely.